Hey veterans and the ones who really appreciate you. I'm Lily with the LILI channel. I'm from a veteran family and I decided to make this Veterans Day weekend instead of Veterans Day because you deserve more than just a day to be appreciated. I have always had a soft spot in my heart for veterans. I'm from a veteran family and I decided somewhat spontaneously to put together a little video series of what turned out to be 4 veterans from various branches of the armed services, various ages. I'd hoped for even more ethnicities to be included, but hey, we're a work in progress, right? Anyhow, I want to thank the 4 people who got interviewed. My parents, who were interviewed by FaceTime, who were in the Army in the late 60s, and then Bob Carlson, who was in the Navy, and he's 60-something, and he's a book publisher, or shall we say he got his book published, Roses on the Windshield. And then his friend, 100-year-old, oh my God, John Johnson. So I salute you both. You're both from the Navy. Incredible. It was a slightly frustrating project to do, technology-wise, but it was exciting, and I just wanted to thank you all for your service, for your time. Stick through the entire video, please, because you get to hear about a Prussian soldier, committee work that didn't go the way it was expected, and about a new habit achieved, and a flower shop. So anyhow, thanks for tuning in, and subscribe, please, and spread the word, okay? And thank a veteran. Thanks so much. Well, since this is Veterans Day, I wanted to make sure that I ask a couple of very important veterans what the experience was like, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it was. And I happen to have my father here, who's right now in Budapest, and I wanted to ask you, well, first of all, if you could remind me, what was your rank?
Well, my final rank was, before discharge, Major of the Medical Corps.
So Major of the Medical Corps.
Yes.
And then
I started out as a captain,
mm-hmm.
and the ranks in the Medical Corps are provided by your grade in medical school or the completion of residency. I have not finished residency. Actually, I was taken out from my residency training. But because I had my MD degree, that automatically qualified for the captain rank.
Sure, yeah.
I was drafted in 1969, and it was 6 months before I finished my residency training. And that was a very inconvenient situation, you can imagine,
yeah.
Because as a consequence, I could not sit for my final board examination. I could sit for the first part of the board, but because I did not have that last 6 months, I could not have my board examination.
Wow.
We requested that the draft would be delayed, but we were told that that was impossible. Because of my German language, knowledge of the German language, I was assigned to Germany, and because I signed up for an extra year, not for 2 years, but for 3 years, I was allowed to take the family with me, and at that time, my family was my wife, your mom.
Yeah.
Although she was heavily pregnant by that time with your older sister, Kathy, but still, one person was allowed at that point, and that was your mom. And so we were assigned to Bremerhaven, Germany, and that was the place where you and your sister, Kathy, were born in the Army Hospital, 2nd Field Hospital.
I only wish that it had been open when I visited. That would have been so cool to go in and look around, but it closed down.
Yes, it was a originally a German hospital. It was built for the submariners, the German submariners, and the German Reich really put a lot of money into it, and surprisingly, it stayed relatively undamaged in the Second World War. So when the U.S. Army moved in, that became our field hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was a beautiful hospital. I think it is now demolished.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't exist anymore. You ask if there were any. First of all, my experience in the Army was a good one. I had good friends. I had excellent colleagues. We had a beautiful home life. We had a very nice apartment. First time, the residency at home in Baltimore didn't pay very much.
Yeah.
And the Army paid pretty good comparably to a captain and later to a major. So I really felt financially that it was very good for us. It stayed with us that we could not finish the residency training. That was a sour point.
Sure, yeah.
All through. What's interesting too is that this was the time of the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my colleagues were objecting to the war. They served in the army, but politically and privately they were against the war, and they expressed it as freely as you can express it in the army. And I was for the war. I believed in the war. I really believed that we were stopping the domino effect of the communists' adventure and advances. And, later I learned that the question was much more complicated.
Yeah.
But it was a sharp difference between myself and many of my colleagues I served with. I served as a radiologist
Mm-hmm.
because I was coming out from a radiology residency training. And it was interesting, the Army structure by itself was obviously very foreign to me.
Yeah.
I thought that it would be much more rigid, and that the interpersonal relationship would be defined by the Army regulations. There are strong regulations how you have to behave.
Yeah.
But in reality, there was a very cordial, collegial relationship between the administrative staff and the professional staff, which I mean that the doctors and the non-doctors, those who actually supervise the supply services and the administration, the administrative staff. That was very friendly relationship, although we had a commanding officer who, being a physician himself, came from a Prussian family.
Oh.
And he spoke the English language even worse than I did, and with a tremendous, very strong German accent. So we made a lot of joke of him behind his back. Colonel Schröder was his name. Very nice man, but he really played the role of a German general. And it was a little bit funny because the American officers were all much more relaxed in personal relationship. Well, he was not relaxed at all. He could not. He was a Prussian to his bones.
That's a bit challenging, yeah.
We had a very nice apartment assigned to us. We lived in a apartment house, and we had physicians, mostly physicians and nurses assigned to that building. And we had a very nice, friendly relationship with everybody around us. Your mom had the problem that she could not practice medicine.
Mm-hmm.
She volunteered, and I think I will let her talk about it. So I just stop right here talking about her and returning to myself. I had very little administrative job,
Mm-hmm.
except in the last year in Bremerhaven. I became for a full 2 weeks the temporary commanding officer for the hospital.
Hmm.
And I tell you honestly, I didn't have much knowledge about the administrative aspect of the hospital, but by law, by military, by the law of the American military, in the hospital it had to be a physician, the commanding officer, and because I was the ranking officer at that time, because I was just about going home after 3 years, and Colonel Schroeder left for vacation, I think, I became the commanding officer. And during
Wow.
that time, I had an interesting experience because I had to arrest a professional army
Oh, jeez.
colonel who was above my head because his wife called in saying that he threatened her,
Oh, my.
and
Oh.
so he was arrested, and I was the one who said, "Well, you have to stay in jail. I cannot
Wow.
let you out."
Whew.
And I had to jail him for several days until he sobered up, and
Wow.
the army let him out. I was by that time relieved because Schroeder came back. The real commanding officer came back. So that was an interesting experience I had.
Imagine.
Otherwise, I had, again, as I told you, a lot of professional friends, and we made the best of our time in Germany. First of all, we had 3 kids. You were one of them. You were born in the hospital, and we traveled a lot, and we returned to the United States a little bit different than we left. We had a feeling that we contributed. We just didn't become American citizens automatically because we spent 5 years as immigrants, but we did contribute materially to the United States through our Army service. So
For sure.
if you have any questions, I would be very glad to answer.
Those were the questions, so I appreciate it.
All right.
Wow.
I'm going to give your mom for a minute because she was an Army wife, and a special one because she was taken out from the residency training just like me. But while I was able to practice at least radiology as a soldier, she could not, although she volunteered. But here is your mom, and she's going to explain you what happened to her.
I'm safe, and thank you so.
And I appreciate that you are interested in this subject.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Here is Mrs.
So here am I.
Do you see yourself?
Yeah,
I
Mommy.
see myself, but I don't see Lily.
Yeah, I actually am off camera so that they can focus on you.
Okay. Well, shoot.
Well, let me. Well, what was? Maybe I can take myself off for a split second. So, although it looks sort of strange on camera, so there I am. What was your challenge about being in the Army without being able to practice? You could talk about that.
Well, it was
Practice
a major
medicine, I mean.
change. It was a real change. Being out, out of my usual way. One day I was chief resident, the next day in the hospital, the next day I was a full-time wife.
Yeah.
Heavily pregnant with the first child. So it was different. I had a lot of time on my hand that I wasn't used to having.
Right.
And like everything else in life, there was good and bad in it. The bad was this interruption in medical training and my way of life. And the good was that we were in West Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And having been brought up behind the Iron Curtain in communist Hungary, we were not allowed to travel to the West. And now, 1969, 5 years after we left Hungary, I was in Western Europe, and all our free time, we were able to travel. And that was very good. And then it was also very good to again brush up on the German language.
Oh, yeah.
Which we both spoke since we were already rather literate in German. And then, of course, there was this circle of wives, the army officers' wives, and there was this German club, and I then became, for the first time in my life, the head of something. So I was then the head of that club.
Neat.
And and I found out that just because people say they're going to do something, you shouldn't trust them.
Yeah.
And it was, for me, enough for a lifetime of
Committee
being
sitting.
head of anything that involves other people. So from then on, I strictly adhere to non-participation in any sort of deals like that. But for that, I learned a lot, and I also enjoyed being able to see Western Europe. So it actually was good. All in all, it was a good experience, and the fact that we were truly blessed by having 3 healthy children in this tour of duty of 3 years, that was amazing. And
Yeah.
so it was good.
That's...
And then, of course, both Papa and I had to make up that last 6 months in the training, in the medical training. So we returned back to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And then did another year of medical training, because you couldn't just do 6 months.
Yeah.
But, for me, it made such a change in myself. I think if Papa wouldn't have been drafted and we hadn't been sent to Germany, for 3 years, I think I would have had a different way of practicing medicine and a different life. And I truly think that being the kind of person I am, I always do everything full steam.
Yeah.
And having been so fully devoted to medicine, I became fully devoted to family and children. And I think that was a very good thing for me, all in all. Practicing medicine only part-time after that point on, and raising all 3 of you until you all left for college.
For sure.
So,
thank you for answering so completely, because I had wondered about the challenges and the lasting impact, and you answered both of those.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, you're welcome, Lily. And Papa is coming back here.
I love you guys. I'm going to shut off the camera just a moment here. Thank you. Köszönöm szépen.
Morning. Good morning. How are you? I'm always good. Good. This is Mr. John R. Johnson. He's 100 years old and 6 months. He served the United States Naval Aviator Section from 1939 to 1947, and he was an instructor at the flight school. Now he's a 100-year-old guy who built one of the largest flower producing companies in the state of Minnesota. He's also an extremely generous man. He gave the land to the church that he goes to every Sunday. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything to say?
No, I don't have anything to say. My actions speak for my words.
Thank you, and have a great Veterans Day.
Thank you.
Good morning. Happy Veterans Day 2022. My name is Bob Carlson. I'm from Northeast Minneapolis. I joined the United States Navy in 1979 and proudly served until 1989. During my 10 years, I was fortunate enough to be stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on the USS Cochrane, San Diego, California aboard the USS Duluth, and in Long Beach, California aboard the battleship New Jersey. The one thing the Navy taught me was doing small accomplishments in the morning would lead to larger accomplishments in life. So every day since I've been in the Navy, I make my bed every morning. Each and every morning I get up and I make my bed. This propels me to make other accomplishments during the day. Thank you for celebrating Veterans Day. I appreciate it. So do the thousands of other veterans that like to be recognized on this special day.
Thank you so much to John, to Bob, and to my parents, Dominic and Susan Corvally. I appreciate you guys all so much. And here are the list of my newest subscribers. We've got Obi, who is a fellow Costco customer who I bumped into in Costco. Thank you, Obi. We have also Allie Barr. We have Diane Windingland. We have Paul Cronin, Laura Herman, Lois Kofi, and Lynn Chang. The list goes on, but those are the newest. Thank you, you guys, and please subscribe. I really appreciate you all. Let me keep up with the fun content. Thanks.